In this video, I crash land, I crash again, I crash again, I show somebody else not crashing, and finally, I crash again. I'd like you to watch the following 3 videos and tell me if you can see a pattern.
Okay. I'm going to keep it up. I'm going to keep it up. And I'm going to flare. Hands up, hands up, hands up, hands up, hands up, hands up, hands up. Oh. God, that's freaking hard. Come in, come in, come in, come in, come in.
Now before I show you any more crashes, let's go ahead and roll the intro. Did you catch it? Did you see the pattern? If not, don't worry, I have plenty of more examples of me crashing. Watch closely on this one, and you'll see the pattern start right here. Okay, did you catch it that time? Okay, so I'm going to give you a hint on this one. Note the direction I'm going, or the relative direction I'm going. I'm going down, but I'm actually heading forward until right about here. In each one of these videos, you can see that I turn left. Right at the very end, I turn left.
The great landing, of course. Of course. But at least I got up in the air. Oh, that sucked. Oh, that sucked.
Down and to the left. 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 Now you see the pattern? All right, but there's something else happening here as well. You can't really tell because the camera angle doesn't really give you a good idea, but I'm coming in at a rather steep angle towards the ground, and just before I get to the ground, I raise in elevation, go left, and then I land on my chest, or I land forward. But even when I would not exaggerate going left and come in at a less steep angle, I would still have the problem of going forward when I landed.
Oh, well.
Now, in the beginning, I really didn't care to spend the time to learn to land that I should have. I was too excited to get up in the air, and I knew that once I would get up, I would crash land, and that was okay with me. I just was so excited to get up in the air. But eventually I did need to learn to land, and that's when I started going through videos of myself landing, and that's when I noticed the pattern of down and to the left and then falling forward. To correct this, I started comparing the way I was landing against videos on YouTube of great pilots and how they land, and then I took some video of a buddy of mine named Collin and the way he lands. Now he's a great pilot, and I took some video of him landing, and I went frame by frame in slow motion and tried to figure out what he was doing that I wasn't doing. And what I learned was that it wasn't that I was flaring too early, which a lot of people were giving me advice about at the time. It was that I was flaring too much. What I needed to do was I needed to flatten the curve.
Flatten the curve.
Is flattening the curve.
Flatten the curve.
And so if you would, let's take a look at the video that I shot of Collin landing, and let me show you exactly what he was doing that I wasn't doing. So the first time, let's just play this clip at normal speed. It's a pretty good landing. Notice how Collin comes in nice and flat, and he's able to walk it off nice and straight. Now let's play the clip at half speed, and I want you to look at his hands. He keeps his hands up until about right there. They reach chest height, and you'll notice he doesn't flare until he starts walking it off. His feet are entirely on the ground before he brings his hands down to his waist. Now if we zoom in, we can actually see this a little bit better. Alright, as he comes in, hands up, nice and high, and we're going to zoom in right here. Okay, so what I noticed at this point was Collin's hands. Look at his left hand and his right hand, here and here. Note that his feet are barely just inches off the ground, and yet his hands are still chest height. Something else I notice is Collin's posture. He's leaning back in the seat. Collin is doing a foot drag before his hands even get to the waist, and then he brings them all the way down once he's stopped. Compare that landing with the very first time I ever landed a paramotor, and you'll see a vast difference. Now, if we slow this clip speed down to 50%, we can see the biggest difference is that that curve is not flattened. In other words, I'm coming down at a really steep angle to the ground. So the first thing I wanted to work on was coming in at a shallower angle. And I did that by not pulling as much brake. Now you can see that I'm still coming in and going left, but that was actually a different issue. Now at this point, I'm going to have to push pause and go on a little bit of a rant. As you can see, in either hand I'm holding a handle. Those handles are known as the brakes. The brakes consist of a line that separates into multiple lines the closer it gets to the wing and is attached to the trailing edge or rear of the wing. As you pull the brake handle, the brake lines pull down on the back side or the trailing edge of the wing. Brakes on a paramotor work in the exact same way that flaps do on a fixed-wing aircraft. Flaps and brakes basically exchange forward motion for lift. Now there is a point of diminishing returns in which you no longer have forward motion, therefore there is no exchange for lift and gravity takes over. All of that to say that brakes is a horrible name for those handles and those lines. Basically, these things aren't stopping you. They're merely doing exchange for forward motion to lift. And so I was treating them as brakes instead of treating them as flaps. Once I started treating the brakes as flaps instead of brakes, well, let's just say landing got much, much easier.
Get ready to run. Yes, 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 yes. I did it. I frickin' did it. Okay. All right, well, now I need to set up and take off again, but all right. That was, I'll call that a success. I'll say that was 100% successful.
There was still a couple things I needed to do. The first was to compensate for the compensation of the paramotor, which was compensating for the torque of the engine. That all to say is that's the reason I was going left, is because of that torque compensation. So I just needed to lean a little bit to the right or put a little bit more right brake in while I'm coming in to keep that wing going straight. And the second thing was to work on my posture. So I'm leaning back as I'm coming in, flattening that curve out, and then running as soon as I hit the ground. And that is how I learned how to land a paramotor. So finally, I can stop doing this.